Welcome to Swatantra Education. In the previous lecture, we have discussed about the variables and different data types. Now, we will discuss a simple program by using the concepts of variables and data types. So, you can see the program here. So, first we write class test. So, it defines the class test or the beginning of the class test. Then the next line is public static void main string arguments. Like we have discussed previously, this is the signature of the main method. Then we are taking int num1 equal to 10. That means num1 is a variable of type integer and we are assigning the value 10 to it. Similarly, int num2 equal to 20, that means num2 is a variable of type integer and we are assigning a value 20 to it. Then the next line is int sum equal to num1 plus num2. Then sum is a variable of type int and we are assigning the value of num1 plus num2 to it. That means the value of sum becomes 10 plus 20, so that is equal to 30. So we are assigning the value 30 to sum. So now you can see the value of num1 is equal to 10, the value of num2 equal to 20 and the value of sum equal to 30. Now system.out.println sum. So if we execute this statement system.out.println sum, so it is going to print or display the value of sum that is equal to 30 as we have computed just now. So if we run this program, we are going to get the output as 30. So here test is the name of the class, num1, num2, sum are the name of the variables. So you can see num1, num2, sum. So these are the name of the variables. So such names, that means the name of the class, name of the variables, like that. So such names are called identifiers, or I am writing here. Such names are called as identifiers. And all identifiers in a program must obey the following rules. So what are the rules the identifier needs to obey? So the first rule is an identifier is a sequence of characters that consists of letters, digits, underscore and $sign. Or we can write that, so identifier is a sequence of letters that consists of letters, then digits, then underscore, then $sign. So you can see the identifier is a sequence of letters that consists of sequence of characters, you can write. So it is a sequence of characters sequence of characters that consists of letters, digits, underscore and dollar sign. Now the next rule for constructing an identifier, or the next rule that identifier should obey, is like that it cannot start with a digit. So the name of the identifier cannot start with a digit. Suppose for example, if I write num1, so it is a sequence of letters, n, u, m are the letters and 1 is a digit, so it obeys the first rule. Then the second rule is it cannot start with a digit, so it starts with letter n, so it obeys both rule 1 and rule 2. So we can say it is a valid identifier, and this num1 we have used in the previous example. Now if I write 1 num, so it obeys first rule because it consists of digits and letters, but it does not obey the second rule. That means it starts with a letter, it starts with a digit. So 1 num is not a valid identifier. Okay. Now we have another rule, that is an identifier cannot be a reserved word. So it cannot be a reserved word. Okay. So in Java we have some reserved word or keyword. So these words are reserved for use by Java and its meaning is predefined in Java, and these words are always spelled with all lowercase letters. So the reserved word is fixed, its meaning is defined, and it always consists of all lowercase letters, and as it is predefined in Java or reserved in Java, so we cannot use these reserved words or keywords as the name of an identifier. So we can see what are the reserved word in the next class. Like you can see here, abstract is a reserved word, asset is reserved word, boolean reserved word, break reserved word, byte reserved word, case, catch, char, class, const. So these are the reserved word. So you can see it is approximately 50 words. So you cannot use these 50 words as the name of an identifier. So if you write here int goto, so this is not valid because goto is predefined, or goto is a reserved word or keyword. So we cannot use goto as an identifier. Now if you write int num1, so it is correct because num1 is a valid identifier. It obeys all the rules, rule 1, rule 2, rule 3. Now if you write int 1 num, so no space is there in between, so int 1 num, so it is not a valid identifier because it starts, 1 num starts from a digit, and we have just discussed that the identifier name cannot start with a digit in rule 2. So we have another rule, that is rule 4. So rule 4 is like this. So identifier cannot be true, false or null. So these true, false, null are not keywords, but you cannot take these words as an identifier, and an identifier can be of any length. So these are the rules we need to follow for defining an identifier, or all identifier must obey these rules. One is, the identifier consists of a sequence of characters. These sequence of characters includes letters, digits, underscore and dollar sign. No other symbol is allowed. Then in rule 2, it cannot start with a digit. In rule 3, it cannot be a reserved word, and what is reserved word, that also we have discussed. Then in rule 4, it cannot be true, false or null. Now if I write double price, so it defines price is an identifier of type double. So now let us see whether price is a valid identifier or not. So is it follows rule 1, sequence of characters, price? Yes, it is a sequence of characters, consists of only letters. Then rule 2, it cannot start with a digit. Yes, price is not starting with a digit. Cannot be a reserved word. Yes, price is not a reserved word, like here you can see price is not a reserved word. Cannot be true, false, null. So price cannot be true, false, null. Yes, so price is a valid identifier. Now if you write test, whether test is a valid identifier or not. So here you can see it follows rule 1, it follows rule 2, cannot start with digit, it follows rule 3, cannot be a reserved word. Then rule 4, cannot be true, false, null. Yes, it follows all the cases. So test is a valid identifier name. Now if we write private, okay, so whether it follows rule 1, yes, it follows rule 1. Whether it follows rule 2, yes, it follows rule 2. Now rule 3, cannot be a reserved word. So private is a reserved word. So here you can see private is there in the list. So this private is not a valid identifier. So similarly, you can check whether an identifier name is valid or not valid. We have discussed about the identifiers. We have also discussed with the help of the programs that if we want to print any text or display text on the monitor, then we can use system dot out dot print subroutine, or we can use system dot out dot println subroutine. And we have also discussed what is the difference between print and println. So println puts the new line character at the end, but print does not add new line character at the end. That means if you use system.out.print, the next output is going to be displayed in the same line. On the other hand, if we use system.out.println, then the next output is going to be displayed in next line. So this is the difference. Here you can see in our previous program, so we have defined the value of num1 is 10, the value of num2 is 20 in the program. But in some cases, the input to the program is required at runtime. That means the program is going to ask that input your data, and depending on that it proceeds. So in that case, we need to know how to give input during runtime. Okay, so here you can see, to display data we use system.out.print or println. So this system.out.print subroutine or println subroutine displays the output. So this subroutine is a part of predefined object called system.out. So it is an object system.out, and system.out.print and system.out.println are part of system.out. So the purpose of system.out is to display output to the user. So similar to this, there should be another object system.in to take input from the user or to read data from the user during the runtime. So if we use the object system.in to read data from the user, then it requires some advanced Java programming skills, and also it provides only primitive input facilities. So system.in has some limitations. So the first limitation is it requires some advanced Java programming skill, and the second one is it provides only primitive input facilities. Now to deal with this, from Java 5.0 introduced a little easier method, that is scanner class, to take input from the user during runtime. So it is not hard to use a scanner class for user input, and it has some nice features, but using it requires the use of the scanner class requires some syntax that we will not introduce until we discuss class and object. So now I am going to tell you how to do it here. That means how we can use this scanner class without explaining why it works, because if you discuss why this scanner class works or why we are writing these codes, then you may face little bit difficulties, because we have not discussed the concepts of classes and objects. So once we discuss the concept of classes and objects, then it will be clear to you. Okay, so now we are going to discuss how to take inputs from the user during runtime using the scanner class. So for that we need to write first import java.util.scanner. So you need to add this line to your program at the beginning of the source code file. Now then include the following statement that I am writing here at the beginning of your main method, that is scanner IP equal to new scanner system.in. So this creates a variable named IP of type scanner. Now we can use IP dot next int to read an integer value from the user. Similarly, we can use IP dot next double to read one double value from the user. Similarly, we can use IP dot next long to read one long value from the user. Similarly, we can use IP dot next boolean to read one boolean value, that is true or false, as input. Similarly, we can use next line IP dot next line to read one line of input or one string input from the keyboard or from the user. Here in place of IP you can take any identifier. It is not fixed like you should take IP. So you can take any identifier in place of IP. So I am taking IP for input. IP stands for input here. We can take any identifier name and similarly update this identifier name here. So we modify this program and take the values of num1 and num2 from the user during runtime. Okay, so here you can see this is the program. Okay, so let me write the program step by step. So first we write import java.util.scanner as we have discussed. Then you can write class test. So remember here S is capital, then public static void main, public static void main, then string arguments, then you can write scanner IP equal to new scanner system.in. Now you can write int num1 num2 sum. That means num1 num2 sum are three variables of type integer. Now we can write here system dot out dot println enter first number, enter first number. Okay, so it is going to display enter first number on the screen. Then we can write num1 equal to ip dot next int, because here we are taking integer values. Similarly, we can write system dot out dot println enter second number, and I can write here num2 equal to ip dot next int. So it reads the number from the user and store that number in the variable num2. Then I can write sum equal to num1 plus num2. That means it computes the addition of num1 and num2 and puts that in sum. Now we can write system dot out dot println sum. So it is going to display the value of sum on the screen. Now this end curly braces for end of main method, another end curly braces for end of class test. So you can see the program here. Now you can see the typed program. So if you have some issues with my handwriting, you can see this one. So this code works properly by storing the first user input at num1 and the second user input at num2, then performs the addition and displays the sum. So if we execute this program, this system.out.println statement going to display enter first number on the screen. Then we can enter 10. Now the second system.out.println statement displays enter second number. So we can give 20 and enter. Now the third system.out.println statement going to print the value of sum, that is equal to 30. So 30 is going to be displayed on the screen. So the output is like this. Enter first number, and the control comes here because we are using println statement. So you can give 10 here and press enter. So after you enter 10, it is going to display enter second number, and control comes here to the next line. So you give 20 and enter, or you press 20 and enter, then it is going to display the value of sum in the next line. So it is going to display 30 like this. So if you execute this program and give 10 and 20 as two inputs, then it is going to display 30. So we will execute this program and see how this input output works. So we can update this program to display the multiplication of two numbers. So for that we can just replace this plus or addition operator with multiplication operator. So instead of this statement, So instead of this, if we write simple sum equal to num1 multiplication num2. So previously we are writing plus, so now we are writing multiplication operator or star. So if you use star, then it is going to display the multiplication of two numbers. That means if you give 10 here, if you give 20 here, so it is going to display 200. So it is better, in place of sum you can take the variable as multiplication, or mul you can take the variable. So for that, here you can write mul, here you can write mul, here you can write mul, or I am writing the complete program. You can see here. So at first we need to write, so you can write import java dot util dot scanner, then class test, then public static void main, public static void main string args, then scanner IP equal to new scanner, system.in. Then we can take three variables and int num1, num2 and mul. Now we can write system dot out dot println enter first number, or I am directly, okay, we can write enter first number. Then we can write num1 equal to ip dot next int. Similarly, we can write system dot out dot println enter second number, and num2 equal to ip dot next int. So we have entered two numbers, and that numbers are going to be stored at num1 and num2 respectively. Now we can give mul or multiplication equal to num1 star num2. Here star is the multiplication operator. Then we can write system dot out dot println, which value we want to print, mul. Now end of main, end of class test. So this is the program for taking two int values or two numbers, whole numbers, and compute their multiplication. So here you can see num1, num2, mul are of type int. Okay. So now we have discussed the addition operator and the multiplication operator. So in addition to this, some other different operators are there. So these operators are used to perform some arithmetic computation. So now we will discuss some other arithmetic operators that are used to perform arithmetic calculation. Suppose for example this forward slash, so it indicates division. Suppose if I write 4 division 2, so it is going to result 2. Similarly, if I write 17 division 5, so it is going to result 3. And here the fractional part is going to be truncated or discarded. So 17 division 5, we are getting 3, because when both the operands are integer, this division produces an integer result. Similarly, we can take 7 division 3, it results 2. Now if we take 20 division 9, it results 2. So here you can see the fractional part is discarded when both the operands are integer. Now if I write here 5 division 2, so it is going to result 2. Now if I write 5.0 division 2, it is going to result 2.5. That means when any one of the operand or both the operands are real values, the result is going to be a real value. So when both are integers, then the result is going to be an integer value in division operator. Now we have another operator, that is remainder operator, and it is represented by the percent symbol or percent sign. Now we will take some examples. So 17, this remainder division 5, so it is going to produce the remainder after division. So if we divide 17 by 5, the remainder will be 2. So 17 remainder 5 is going to produce 2. Then 7 remainder 4, it is going to result 3. Similarly 19 remainder 2, it is going to produce 1. Similarly 5 remainder 4, it is going to produce 1, like this. And this remainder operator is also called as modular division operator or modulus operator. Now we will implement the program that we have discussed. So here you can see the class name is test. So we are saving the program as test.java. So our program is inside the code folder of F drive. So we are compiling using the command inside that drive in the command prompt. No error, successful compilation. Then run the program. So it is showing 30. Now another program that we have discussed. So here also the class name is test, so we have saved as test.java. Now compile the program using javac test.java. Then run the program using java test. So it is showing enter first number, so we have entered 10, I entered second number, we have entered 20, so it is showing the result is 30. So if we run again and give the input as 25 and 15, so it is going to show the result 40.